Click, listen, enjoy.
Broadcasting live worldwide.
Thank you for tuning in to
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community. You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. Our very special guest. It's been quite a while, but very pleased that Dennis Prager joins us. He's one of America's best speakers. He is a thinker. He is somebody who is a great orator. He's written books, including Why the Jews? I wonder why the Jews. We'll talk about that tonight. And he has his own radio show, and as well as having founded Prager University. Dennis, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Zev, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And you also have a book on the Torah, from what you told me off the air too.
It's actually the best-selling Bible commentary in America for 3 years. It's called The Rational Bible. I have a book commentary on two of the 5 books of the Torah, and Devarim, Deuteronomy, is coming out later this year.
Terrific. And I also mentioned the 9 questions people ask about Judaism that you wrote with Joseph Telushkin, also a book that I have, and you've written some fantastic books. So we're very pleased that you're here with us on our premiere broadcast on WABC, 7 a.m. and 107.1 WLIR. So here's my question to you, is what has happened to free speech? We have changed, and I think in the last year or so, in the last 6 months especially, we've seen a stifling of free speech, especially conservative speech. You do a conservative talk show. What, in your opinion, is going on?
I know exactly what is going on, and it could be explained. Okay, correct. So here is the story in a nutshell. Al regel achat, as they said in the Talmudic days, standing on one leg. Wherever in the history, in modern human history, the left has taken over, it has ended free speech. There is no exception to the rule. It doesn't include liberals. Liberals are for free speech. Liberals do not understand that their enemy is the left, not the right, but that's the tragedy of the modern age. Liberals have always been for free speech. Conservatives have always been. The left has never been. French Revolution, Russian Revolution, to the modern university, everywhere, without exception, that the left is in control, it suppresses dissent. And it suppresses dissent because it can't handle it. The leftism is rooted in doctrine and emotion. It has no intellectual, rational, or moral basis, and therefore they cannot tolerate even one tweet that punctures their lies. So it's given that the left runs everything in America, essentially, more and more of America will have less free speech. It is the first time in American history that free speech is threatened. It has never happened before. It was the one thing that Americans agreed on. That's why the French gave us the Statue of Liberty, and I wouldn't be surprised if they asked for it back.
Here's what I find amazing. I just discovered recently that, it used to be the American Civil Liberties Union used to defend everybody, even American Nazis marching in Skokie. Remember that great controversy? And they said free speech, and even though we find it abhorrent, we're going to defend it. From what I understand, the ACLU no longer defends all free speech. They only defend free speech that they agree with. If they don't agree with you, they no longer are going to fight to support it. I think that's a tremendous radical change.
That's a perfect example of a group going from liberal to left. The moment you go to left, you don't value free speech. Try and tweet, men do not give birth. Just that. Men do not give birth, or even worse, it is anti-science and anti-truth to say that men give birth. You will be shut down, and the ACLU will not defend you.
So what remedies do we have? Because look at Twitter, look at Facebook. And by the way, I have to say that Twitter shut off the President of the United States, Donald Trump, when he was president. Had they shut it off 2 months early, he might have won the election. But the fact is that they are in control, the big companies, the Googles, the Twitters, the Facebook. It's scary because they determine what you can say, what you can't say. And I think that's a tremendously terrible situation for all of us.
The future of the country is in jeopardy. I mean, you're exactly right. By the way, your point about the president and Twitter was brilliant.
Right, he would have won. Right, he would have.
I think yes, I think that's correct. That's very funny. It's a very, very ironic comment.
But, they should be penalized for that. Anyway, for not doing it sooner. If they're going to do it, they should have done it. Would have been beneficial to him.
Well, right. But having said that, the fact that the ex-president of the United States cannot tweet and people are accepting this as okay gives you an idea of how effective colleges have been in educating young Americans for 2 generations against free speech.
And I'm not sure what the solution is, because maybe there should be another platform. I spoke to Alan Dershowitz.
That is the solution. The only solution is to leave the world of the left. People have to take their kids out of schools, whether they're private or public. It's not just a public school. They spend $40,000 a year for these crappy, prestigious high schools. The more prestigious, the worse they are, generally speaking. But they don't care. Jewish parents certainly don't care, because most Jews are on the left. They're not even liberal any longer. Most Jews don't care. The American Jew is a tragedy. The Israeli Jew looks at the American Jew as bizarre, and they're right. It is that American Jews line up with the left. I don't care that if American Jews line up with liberals, but that they line up with the left, which always has hated Jews and always has hated Israel since its inception, and which hates America. The left all over the world hates America. The left in America hates America. Jews, is a Jew who wrote "God Bless America," and basically Jews have voted for the man whose pastor said "God damn America." That's in a nutshell. I'll give you another example of a nutshell. Jews invented Superman.
News 3030.
I got another broadcast back again. I'm sorry.
I think the station just did it. But anyway, I think we go ahead. You were saying what happened?
Yeah. So Superman was created by Jews, I think the 1930s, and he was American. His motto was truth, justice, and the American way. And about 15 years ago, Superman, now run by leftists, I believe leftist Jews, stood in front of the United Nations and announced he's no longer an American, he's now a world citizen. So to go from God bless America to a president whose pastor said God damn America, and Jews thinking this is the greatest gift, the Medina Shel Chesed, as the Lubavitcher Rebbe said it was, the country of decency.
2 minutes, stations. 2 minutes.
To now.
Next Fox News.
Okay, I got the Fox News.
Yeah, that's coming up in about 2 minutes. So, but the point is, though, is that it's Medina Shel Chesed, but Bernie Sanders voted against. I think almost every senator voted to keep the embassy in Jerusalem, except Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish, and Elizabeth Warren. That's the tragedy. Right, Dennis?
Say it again.
That's the tragedy. Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish, he lived in Israel, voted against moving the embassy. Right now was a vote to keep the embassies in Jerusalem.
Bernie Sanders honeymooned in the Soviet Union. He's a moral idiot. The man is a moral idiot. What can I say? There are a lot of moral idiots on Earth. Every generation produces an abundance of them.
Dennis Prager is our guest. He's a prolific author, writer, also talk show host. And we're going to be right back after the following messages.
Hi, this is David Gabe, and you're listening to The Zev Brenner Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community. You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now your host.
Thank you, and we're back. Dennis Prager is our guest, talk show host, book author, head of Prager University, and we're taking your phone calls at 212-769-1925, extension 100. Email zevbrenner@gmail.com. zevbrenner@gmail.com, and we're happy to take your phone. We'll get to as many phone calls as we can. Okay. Oh, look what we have on the line. Rabbi Marty Katz, known as Chatul. I know Rabbi Marty Katz for so many years. He is the executive vice president of Just One Life organization. Good friend, does amazing work. They saved officially 18,500 lives in Israel, which over generations is closer to 100,000 lives. So thank you for calling in. Good to speak with you, Rabbi Marty Katz.
It's a pleasure to be and talk to my close friend Zev and an old friend, Dennis Prager.
Chatul, how do you know each other?
I think it goes back to Mossad, Ramaz. Am I hitting the right buttons, Dennis? With my best friend, Effie Buchwald? Are those the right buttons?
Effie Buchwald is a very right button. Mossad is. I was at the Yeshiva Flatbush, not Mossad. Not Ramaz.
No, wait, Yeshiva Flatbush, right. Yes, Yeshiva Flatbush. I should say Yeshiva Flatbush. But Mossad, we go back to Chatul and Effie. And more important, I used to meet you every year at the Hagee events.
God bless you.
Yeah. We used to spend time at Hagee. Pastor John and Diana, Baruch Hashem, have given us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over many years. Okay? So I preface, and by the way, I owe you an apology, because you once told me your cause, John Hagee, what he does for you, I should have you on my radio show. So the apology is I didn't follow up, but I'm going to.
Well, now you're on my radio show, so you can have a shidduch here.
I'm always on Zeb's show. I want to just tell two quick stories about, just so the audience realizes the power here of listening to Dennis. Another fan of mine and friend of Zeb's is Pesach Lerner, and we often talk about this. I have a weekly chavruta, Dennis, with a doctor by the name of Richard Cohen. Richard Cohen, I never like to use the word unaffiliated. He's a conservative Jew. I mean, conservative in Hashkafa. He's older than me, so he's in the, I'd say, 73, 74. I'm 71. We learn once a week for 10, 15 minutes. He happens to be my doctor. And I've gotten to know him the last 15, 20 years, Zev. And about 5, 6, 7 years ago, we're speaking when I'm in his office for my yearly checkup, and I noticed some of Dennis's books. Joe Tulushkin, who suffered a tragedy, as Dennis and I know, that book, 8 Questions, was turned into 9 Questions, was on his desk, and there were 2 or 3 others. And I asked him, what's his relationship to the Dennis Prager books? He has so many of them. His comment to me was, Rabbi, those books turned me around and brought me to appreciate my Judaism, my identity, and who I am. And there is such ruchniut, Dennis, in him, spirituality, it's unbelievable. And as a present, I found out what books he doesn't have of yours, and I sent it to him, and I'm in the midst of getting a hold of the Chumash and also sending it to him, so that every week we could pick out a Dvar Torah or something and study it together. From Dennis's books, his entire motif turns.
Dennis, what do you have to say to Rabbi Katz about that?
Well, it's a very beautiful thing for Rabbi Katz to speak of. First of all, Hakara Satov. I wrote a book on happiness, and the most important trait in the human being for goodness and happiness is gratitude. So both his doctor and what the rabbi is saying is a reflection on them. I just want to say again, because this is my life's work for the last 10 years, is my commentary on the Torah. It's called The Rational Bible. People could look at it. It's got 2,500 reviews on Amazon. Devarim, Genesis and Exodus are out. Deuteronomy, as I said, comes out this year. It's called The Rational Bible. Nobody writes Torah commentaries to get rich, so I have no problem in mentioning this. But I know that if we don't make the case for the Torah to Jews and to the world on a rational basis, there is little hope for Jews and little hope for the world. So this is I thank you, and I hope that doctor takes good care of you for many decades.
So my question to you is, now that you spoke about the liberal and you spoke about the left, what does the Jew do who's literally every move being made, every path is surrounded by the left. I know Zev brought up the new platform, which you thought was a great idea, but what do we do as a people, knowing that the left is, it's not just clustering us, the left is us. I think you said it very well. The majority, a good deal of the left, it's our own people. Those that are not part of that left, that are Jews, how do we go on in Dennis Prager's eyes? Or mind, I should say.
Well, there's really, the answer is not just applicable to Jews. The answer is applicable to all non-left-wing Americans. They think they'll win, and they may be right, because of the fear that they have engendered in Americans who speak out. People are afraid of losing their jobs, of having their Facebook page removed, etc. That's what they do. They smear and they shut down. So here's the issue. As I say so often, good people are divided into three groups: those who fight, those who help the fighters, and those who do nothing. So people. I heard that. Yeah. Well, people have to. You can't do nothing. So you either help fighters or you fight. And everybody could fight, and everybody could help fighters. One way to fight is to put up good articles, for example, on your Facebook page. To say, folks, I think this is worth reading. That's all. Don't be in their face, but put these things up. There are so many spectacular, moral, rational, powerful articles written against the left and showing what is happening in America. Do you know, in the New York area, because it's somewhat of a cloistered area, I believe that the average liberal and left Jew hasn't a clue as to what the left is doing to America. They think of it as aberrations. I mean, just to give one an example, the ruination of language. There was no insurrection on January 6th. A bunch of fools entered the Capitol violently. They should be arrested, and they are. However, we had 9 months of daily massive destruction that dwarfs anything that happened in the Capitol, dwarfs it. The burning down of businesses, the burning of police cars, the taking over of government homes. Do you know that in 2016 or 2011, I think it's 2011 actually, when left-wing mobs took over the Capitol in Madison, Wisconsin, Nancy Pelosi called them heroes. And they stayed there for months, not hours, months. We live in the world of the New York Times lie. It's just a gigantic lie. Bret Stephens' column last week was suppressed. He's a columnist for the New York Times. They did not publish his own column because he differed with the New York Times. The New York Times is our Pravda. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I believe it literally. I studied Russian in order to read Pravda when I was at graduate school, and I know what I'm talking about. It is indistinguishable from Pravda. Pravda was the organ of the Communist Party, and the New York Times is the organ of the Democratic Party.
Right, Mark.
Go
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, we have a lot of calls.
We
have a lot of calls. So thank you, Rabbi Mardik. Always good to hear from you. So thank you.
Dennis, I'll be in touch. God should give you the koach to keep doing what you do, and it's good to see old friends. It's good to be back with old friends. And I'll be in touch.
It means a lot to me.
Okay, thank you.
I intend to send a letter. I want to send a letter. Really, it's terrific what you're doing. God bless you.
All right, thank
God. You're great. Thank you. Both of you are fabulous.
God bless you, Rabbi Katz. We'll let you do Just One Life organization. Before I get to the next phone, just a quick thought. You mentioned the term hakara sato, which you mean say thank you. I think that may be a dividing point between left-wing Jews and right-wing Jews when it comes to support of Donald Trump, because you hear the left-wing Jews say, how could you support him even though he moved the embassy to Jerusalem and he defunded UNRWA and made peace between the Abraham Accords. But the religious will say, listen, we may not like the personality, but look at what he did. There's something called a hakara sato. We have to say thank you. I think that may be the dividing line between the left-wing and more right-wing Jews. It
is the dividing line, and you don't need Donald Trump as the example. America is the example. Every conservative thanks God or luck every day that they're American, and the left doesn't. That Jews treated better in America than in any country we ever lived outside of Israel except Darius's Persia do not every day sing the national anthem or sing God Bless America, teach their children how lucky they are to be a Jew in America is an utter moral condemnation of the left-wing Jew.
Max in Manhattan, thank you for patiently waiting. Your question for Dennis Prager. Max, are you there?
Sorry, Zev Brenner.
Yes, go ahead, Max.
Zev?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, listen, I don't think we should I don't think we should forget that Trump passed a law against anti-Semitism on college campuses. I hear a lot of people who don't remember that. And I think that's a pretty great feat considering what politics is like nowadays. Second thing I wanted to mention is that since there are a lot of Orthodox Jews listening to this show, I'd like to remind them that there are fetal cells in the making of the COVID vaccine.
So what does that have to do with anything? So, okay, I don't know what they put in their different vaccines. But your question, your 30-second question to Dennis Prager.
That's actually an interesting, I did not know that. I will look that up.
And which vaccine?
In the COVID vaccine that we're being given right now.
There are three different vaccines. The Johnson, you have the Pfizer.
In the three of them, except I think for Merck. Merck decided not to put them out because they're finding a good deal of danger in the vaccines, as well as the country of India. They stopped vaccinating because they see the danger in the vaccine that's in the COVID vaccine is putting out now.
Don't they have the Chinese vaccine?
I
think they
You mean the Indians?
No, there's also a Chinese vaccine. There's a race around the world.
The Russian vaccine, a lot of countries are coming out with vaccines. Yeah.
Right, but my point here is that India decided not to vaccinate anymore because of the dangers of the vaccine.
But I think it might be the Chinese vaccine. I have to look. I remember reading about it that some of the countries stopped it because it's not been that efficient. There've been some issues with it. So I'm not sure if it's the Indian. I think it was a Chinese vaccine, but I could be wrong. Anyway, thank you.
Well, the point.
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
The point is that it was dangerous regardless of where it came from, and therefore they stopped it.
Okay, so it pays to. I don't have enough information except what I just said.
Well, I have information on the following, and I don't know if you've had Dr. Zelenko on or not.
We did have Dr. Zelenko on, yes.
Yeah. I had a feeling you would have. And I've had him on my national show a number of times.
And what is the summary of Dr. Zelenko?
The following. Had Americans begun taking hydroxychloroquine and zinc and ivermectin from the beginning, vast numbers of people who died would not have died. I have a column up from a week ago. The American medical establishment is responsible for vast numbers of Americans dying. The left has corrupted medicine just as it has corrupted the universities and religion and everything it touches. So we had therapeutics from the beginning, but the fact that President Trump mentioned hydroxychloroquine was enough for doctors to reject it because they put their hatred of Trump above their love of life.
It made a trade.
And maybe
it made a trade.
And maybe that's the new religion, huh? Unfortunately.
The new religion is leftism in all of its incarnations. Nobody is irreligious. Either people have what I call either they have Judeo-Christian religions or they'll have secular religions.
Anyway, thank you for your call, Matt.
Very good.
We're going to move on. Let's go to Forest Hills, New York. Stan in Forest Hills, you have a question for Dennis Prager. Go ahead.
It's unbelievable. Wonderful conversations listening here. I'm taking the shot Friday. I'm not afraid of anything. And so I hope it's okay. I'm not worried about it. For the last 4 years, the right has controlled this country by the name of Donald Trump and Fox News and other programs. They have controlled the country and what we hear. Okay? President Trump, well, former President Trump, that's as much respect as I'll give him up to the point, used freedom of speech, which he's entitled to, over the last 3 to 4 years, to incite, to build up this country to such a fever pitch pitch, that we did have incitement. We did have the possibility of an overthrow.
So your question to Dennis Prager is?
You said I can do a comment. You said a comment.
You can do a comment, okay.
By the way, Zev, I'm okay if the guy wants to comment, take issue with me.
Okay.
As soon as
well, of course.
So that's fine.
That's I respect you. You're right, of course. The point is this.
You made your point. So
I haven't made my point.
That's 37. Make your point.
No, I'm saying that over 3.5 years.
Hold on, go ahead.
All right, go ahead. Fine.
I deal with callers for a living.
I know you do. That's the problem. Go ahead.
I made two. You made 2 points.
I haven't made any point yet.
You did, but go ahead.
I'll summarize your points.
I'll summarize it, but I didn't make a point
gentlemen,
yet.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
We're bound by the clock, so we're going to take a quick break. And
go ahead.
The right has controlled the country for these years, and that the right has created such hatred that it has produced violence. Those are the 2 points you made. If you didn't make those points, then you're lying to yourself, and I think future conversation is pointless. Those are the 2 points you made. They're bizarre. The country, the New York Times, and all the media except for Fox News and Talk Radio are left-wing. 99% of the universities are left-wing. All the teachers' unions are left-wing. What exactly does the right control?
The government. It ran it for 3 or 4 years.
The government, not the media, not the media. Gentlemen, we're going to pause for
They don't run the country. Donald Trump made rules and regulations.
But the media. Anyway, gentlemen, we're going to just take a quick break. We'll take a quick commercial break. Bound by the clock, you know what the rules of Talk Radio is, and we'll come back. I'll keep you on hold, Stanley. Dennis Prager, our guest, for a few minutes longer. Dennis Prager, the well-known author. He's the founder of Prager University. He is a very popular talk show host, prolific writer, and we're going to be right back with Dennis right after these messages.
Talkline radio and TV with Zev Brenner is just phenomenal. Everybody concerned about the Jewish community should listen and watch. He has the best guests. He asks the most interesting questions. He's always so well prepared. It's talk radio and television from a Jewish point of view at its very best.
To advertise on the Talkline network and Talkline's email and social media blasts reaching over 70,000 people, please call 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100. Or email info@talklinenetwork.com.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community. You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now your host.
Our final strategist, Dennis Prager, we were in conversation. Dennis, you're going to say something to our caller from Queens, from Forest Hills, Stan from Forest Hills.
Yeah, here's a deal that I'll make about control of America. The Democrats can have the presidency for the next 20 years. You give us Facebook, Twitter, and all the other social media. You give us all the colleges. You give us all the high schools and elementary schools. And I will make that trade in a nanosecond. The president does not control the country. The country is shaped overwhelmingly by the media because that is the conduit of information that humans believe. So I'll make that trade. You can have the presidency. You give us everything else like it existed under Donald Trump. We had a Republican president. We had a Democratic House. We had a Republican Senate, that is correct. And by the way, I just might add that is whatever one thinks of Donald Trump, the individual, Donald Trump did more good for this country than any president of my lifetime, Republican or Democrat. If it matters, if the unemployment rate among minorities, for example, matters, and to me that's a moral issue because work gives people dignity. The lowest unemployment rate in the history of the recording of unemployment rates among blacks was achieved under Donald Trump.
And he has a lot of stuff in security. We're almost out of time. Stanley, thank you for your phone call. I know that you disagree, but
history will judge totally opposite of what Mr. Prager has said. The worst president in the history of this country. The worst.
All right. Thank you, Stanley. I expected no more from you. We have a moment of slide. We're going to do a quick email. BC writes, would Mr. Prager give his view on the current sad state of affairs of how New York City is being run into the ground by a leftist mayor?
Every leftist mayor runs the city down to the ground. What happens in New York City is that New York City keeps voting in leftists. They ruin the city, and then they vote in a Republican who fixes the city like Giuliani did. And they'll probably do something like that within the next 10 or 15 years, except the brainwash is so severe in New York City that they really seem to put up even further left people who will allow more criminals, violent criminals, out of prison, and who will further exacerbate tensions. This country was created on the belief, not obviously kept because of slavery, and Jim Crow, but on the belief that the individual is what matters, and the color of the individual doesn't matter. I'll give you an example of a left liberal difference.
We have about 30 seconds left, then. Unfortunately, the clock is ticking. Go ahead.
They have all black dormitories at colleges around the country. The only people who supported that 20 years ago was the Ku Klux Klan, and now it's the Ku Klux Klan and the leftists. Okay? Just to give an example. No liberal would have ever accepted a dormitory based on race.
Dennis Prager, I want to thank you for being with us. If people want to learn more about Prager University, about your writings, your books, your radio shows, how can they do so?
DennisPrager.com, PragerU.com. My column is out every week. And again, the Rational Bible, my Torah commentary.
Look forward for the Deuteronomies. Thank you for being on. Look forward. We have to have you back in. It's been way too long. But thank you for being on our show this evening.
My pleasure. Keep